If a man over 60 is used to hearing only general advice about increasing vegetable consumption for better well-being, he should pause and listen carefully. It's quite possible that one of those very vegetables currently in his refrigerator is subtly undermining his male health, leading to weakened erections, an enlarged prostate, and a general decline in vitality. The core of the problem lies not so much in the inevitable aging process, but in the unconscious consumption of foods that the public considers healthy, yet which are slowly but surely depleting male potency. As years of experience from male health specialists have repeatedly confirmed, the most effective medicine is often found not in a pharmacy package, but right on the dinner plate. What if it were said that some vegetables, yes, common vegetables, contain hidden compounds capable of raising estrogen levels, causing arteries to harden, and provoking inflammatory processes in the prostate? Moreover, most of these foods are conscientiously recommended by nutrition experts as beneficial for cardiovascular health. This is the paradox. Food intended to do good sometimes causes the most harm. This material will detail 4 types of vegetables that are strongly recommended to be immediately excluded from the diet if a man aims to maintain normal blood circulation, optimal testosterone levels, and his male vigor. Also presented will be 4 powerful vegetables capable of having the opposite effect, restoring blood flow, boosting confidence, and supporting prostate health in just a few days. It's important to read to the end, as the secret of one green vegetable will be revealed that can increase estrogen levels in men over 60 by more than 30%, something most doctors, unfortunately, don't warn about. Once the truth is known, your view of common vegetables will change forever. Let's start with the truth most men never hear. Below are 4 vegetables to avoid after 60. While they may seem completely harmless and even beneficial at first glance, these foods can subtly weaken circulation, raise estrogen levels, cause prostate inflammation, and deplete vital energy precisely when it's most needed. Let's take a closer look at what these vegetables are and why their consumption might do more harm than good. 1. Soybeans, edamame, tofu, soy milk. Let me share an example from a specialist practice. One day, a 68-year-old retired school principal named Robert came in for a consultation. He was sharp-minded and had a loving wife, but he felt something important was missing from his life. Robert entered the office visibly distressed, with a hint of embarrassment. "Doctor," he said, "everything else is fine, but I just don't feel like myself anymore. I'm constantly tired, my energy is depleted, and the fire in the bedroom has completely gone out." All necessary tests were conducted. No serious pathologies were found. His heart was functioning normally, and cholesterol levels were only slightly elevated. However, one detail immediately caught the specialist's attention. Robert's estrogen level was unusually high for a man his age. When asked about his diet, Robert proudly revealed that he had completely switched to tofu, soy milk, and edamame several years prior. "I thought it was good for my heart," he explained, and at that moment, everything clicked into place. Soybeans, despite being heavily promoted by many health experts, contain phytoestrogens, plant compounds that mimic the action of estrogen in the male body. At first glance, this might not seem like a serious issue, but for a man over 60, it's critically important. At this stage of life, natural testosterone levels are already gradually declining. Introducing estrogen-like compounds into the diet, especially in the form of soy, further shifts the hormonal balance in an undesirable direction. What does this mean in practice? Reduced libido, slower recovery after exertion, and a flabbier, more fatigued body. For many men, just like Robert, erections become inconsistent, weak, or disappear entirely. The specialist had observed this countless times. The problem isn't just with soy itself. It's about how often it subtly infiltrates the diet. Soy is found in protein bars, salad dressings, packaged snacks, and meat substitutes. The food industry actively uses soy because it's cheap, versatile, and marketed as a healthy product. However, the male body, especially its hormonal system, knows better. And it's not just about testosterone. Some studies also link soy consumption to increased inflammatory processes and even thyroid dysfunction in older adults. The combination of these factors with age-related changes in circulation and nerve sensitivity creates a perfect storm for reduced intimate activity and self-confidence. Robert was shocked when these facts were explained to him, but he was willing to try something new. The specialist recommended eliminating soy from his diet. Within a few weeks, Robert returned with noticeably increased energy. A month later, his wife sent a handwritten thank you note. It read, "You gave me back my husband. Does this mean soy is poison?" No, but for men over 60, especially those suffering from fatigue, erectile problems, or prostate issues, it's best to exclude this vegetable from the diet. There are much better ways to nourish your body without compromising your male essence. Speaking of healthy foods with a hidden dark side, prepare for information about a vegetable often used to support blood pressure, but when processed, it can subtly stiffen arteries and divert blood flow from where it's needed most. It's hard to believe how common this phenomenon is. Let's examine it in more detail. 2. Pickled or canned beets. Not long ago, a 72-year-old patient named Harold entered the specialist's office with a puzzled expression. He said, "Doctor, I'm doing everything right. I eat beets almost every day. I read it's great for blood flow, so I eat it for dinner. But my feet are still cold, and honestly, nothing's improving down there either." He whispered the part about down there, as is often the case with older men when their confidence begins to wane. The specialist smiled, nodded, and asked him one simple question. "Harold, do you eat them fresh or from a can?" He paused. "From a can," he said. "Sometimes pickled. It's easier that way." And there it was. Beets in their natural form are one of the most powerful vegetables for maintaining healthy circulation. They are rich in nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, a molecule that widens blood vessels and increases blood flow. This is critically important for strong legs, a sharp mind, and undoubtedly for healthy, reliable erections. But here's the problem. When beets are canned or pickled, their magical properties disappear. The high heat used in canning, combined with long-term storage, destroys a significant portion of these beneficial nitrates. And the pickling process saturates them with sodium and vinegar, which, conversely, constrict arteries and negate the hope for benefits. In other words, Harold thought he was improving his blood flow, but he was actually subtly stiffening his arteries, especially the tiny, sensitive vessels that supply the pelvic area. He was unintentionally working against his own health. Upon a more thorough review of his diet, the specialist discovered that Harold was consuming almost double the recommended daily sodium intake. Most of this sodium came precisely from those healthy, pickled vegetables. And such high levels of salt don't just raise blood pressure. They can actually reduce nitric oxide availability, leading to impaired circulation and even contributing to erectile dysfunction in older men. It was recommended to replace canned beets with fresh, baked ones, lightly seasoned with olive oil and sea salt. Nothing complicated. Within 2 weeks, Harold felt his hands and feet were warmer. A month later, he had more energy for his morning walks. And soon after, his confidence in the bedroom returned without the need for prescription medications. Here's what the specialist now tells every patient. Not all vegetables are created equal. Processing changes everything. What starts as medicine can become a toxin in the wrong form. So, the next time you reach for a jar or can, you should ask yourself, is this helping my blood vessels or subtly clogging them? Now, let's move on to a vegetable that many consider a gift from nature, a favorite of the Mediterranean diet, praised for its taste and texture. But for older men, especially those suffering from joint pain or nerve sensitivity, it can be a hidden source of inflammation that affects much more than just the knees. This fact surprises many. 3. Nightshade vegetables, especially eggplant. The specialist will never forget the day he spoke with Frank, a 75-year-old retired contractor with hands like worn leather and a heart as big as Texas. He came in for routine tests, but the conversation quickly turned personal. "Doctor," he said, "my knees ache like hell. My back aches, and honestly, I've lost all feeling down there. Not pain, just nothing. It's like the light went out." Tests were conducted. Nothing alarming was found, but something about Frank's story bothered the specialist. Otherwise, Frank was active. He walked every day, ate what he considered healthy food, grilled vegetables, lots of bright colors on his plate, as often advised on TV. Then the specialist asked him about his meals, and one word immediately stood out: eggplant. I eat it almost every evening, Frank admitted. My wife bakes it with tomatoes and cheese, Mediterranean style, he added. Here's the thing. While eggplant may sound like a sophisticated health food, it belongs to the nightshade family, a group of vegetables that includes tomatoes, peppers, and white potatoes. Tomatoes, in moderation, can be beneficial, but eggplant can be problematic for many older individuals, especially men. Nightshades contain natural compounds called alkaloids. In some people, these compounds can cause low-level inflammation in joints and nerves. This might seem minor, but for someone already suffering from age-related inflammation, it adds fuel to the fire. And for men like Frank, who already had mild circulation issues, this meant worsening nerve sensitivity not only in his knees, but also in his pelvic floor. The dull, lifeless sensation he described wasn't just about testosterone or blood flow. It was about impaired nerve signaling. Imagine your body as an electrical system. If the wires are inflamed or corroded, signals can't pass through, even if the power is on. That's what alkaloids can do over time. Once eggplant was excluded from Frank's diet, and his consumption of other nightshades was reduced, something changed. Within a few weeks, the tingling in his legs disappeared. His knees felt freer, and one day, he came in with a smile, leaned in, and whispered, "Doctor, it's coming back. I'm feeling something again." Such moments are why the specialist does this work. It should be noted that it's not being claimed that every man over 60 should fear every tomato or pepper. But if you notice stiffness, pelvic discomfort, or numbness, especially alongside issues in your intimate life, it's worth reevaluating your relationship with nightshades. Because inflammation doesn't always manifest as swelling. Sometimes it manifests as silence, as a loss of connection. Speaking of lost connections, there's one more vegetable left on the list that deceives even the smartest eaters. Most people praise it as healthy, especially for cancer prevention. But when overcooked or microwaved, it loses its healing properties and starts to act in reverse. In fact, if you've ever wondered why your clean eating regimen hasn't restored your strength, this might be the silent reason. Let's explore. For overcooked broccoli or microwaved cruciferous vegetables. Not long ago, a man named Walter came to the specialist. He was 69, a widower, a proud grandfather, and someone who literally followed all health advice. He said, "I steam broccoli every night, doctor. I've been doing it for years. I heard it's good for my prostate and helps me stay fit." He chuckled as he said it, but beneath the humor, the specialist sensed a worry. Walter leaned in, lowered his voice, and confessed that his energy wasn't what it used to be. More alarmingly, he noticed his nighttime urination had increased, his sex drive was fading, and there was a kind of mental fog. "I'm doing everything right," he said. "So why do I feel like I'm fading?" And then the specialist asked him exactly how he prepared his vegetables. "Well," he said proudly, "I boil that broccoli to death. Sometimes I microwave it when I'm in a hurry." That last phrase hit home for the specialist, because here's the truth. While broccoli is one of the most powerful vegetables for men over 60, especially when it comes to estrogen detoxification and prostate protection, it only works if prepared correctly. Broccoli, like other cruciferous vegetables such as Brussels sprouts and cauliflower, contains a compound called sulforaphane. This compound is a game changer. It helps the liver process toxins, reduces systemic inflammation, and most importantly for older men, it reduces excess estrogen and supports a healthy testosterone balance. But there's a catch. Sulforaphane is incredibly heat sensitive. The moment you overcook broccoli, or worse, microwave it, you destroy most of this healing compound. What's left is a limp, lifeless stalk that, sure, contains fiber, but lacks the protective power a man's aging body needs. Walter was unknowingly depriving himself of the very nutrient his body craved. He was eating food designed to protect his masculinity, but preparing it in a way that rendered it dead weight. Once a simple change was made, lightly steaming broccoli for no more than 3 minutes, or even eating it raw in a salad with olive oil and lemon, Walter began to notice subtle shifts. His mind felt clearer, his nighttime urination slowed, and gradually, energy began to return. It's a small change, but for men over 60, the small things matter. Over time, repeated habits either heal or harm. And unfortunately, many men think they're doing the right thing because they've been told to eat more vegetables, not realizing that how those vegetables are prepared makes all the difference. So here's the truth. Overcooking broccoli doesn't just dull its taste. It strips the body of one of the most potent prostate-protecting compounds on Earth. And microwaving is like putting out a fire that's desperately needed. Now that you know which vegetables to avoid, or at least prepare correctly, let's talk about the ones that can truly fuel male power. Because when you put the right foods on your plate, the difference is felt in your energy, your confidence, and even your connection with your partner. What are these performance-boosting vegetables? And how can they help you feel younger from the inside out? Let's find out. 1. Arugula, fuel for the bedroom. There's something beautifully simple about watching a man come back to life. The specialist saw it in Tom, a 71-year-old former Air Force mechanic who hadn't felt strong in years. He sat in the office one morning, silent at first, then said, "Doctor, I'm not looking for miracles. I just want to feel like a man again, like I used to." His wife had passed away 3 years prior. Since then, he said, the spark in his body and soul had dimmed. "I still want to live fully," he whispered. "I just don't know how to get there." His lifestyle, medications, and diet were discussed. Nothing unusual until he mentioned his meals. They were mostly beige, toast, pasta meat. He ate almost no greens, especially the ones that matter most. That's when the specialist introduced him to a quiet but powerful remedy, arugula. Arugula might seem like just another salad green, but as a doctor, the specialist could tell you it's far from it. This peppery leaf is rich in natural nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is the key that unlocks blood vessels. It relaxes them, widens them, and allows blood to flow freely, especially to the places where it matters most for male vigor. Unlike synthetic drugs that forcefully enhance blood flow and come with side effects, arugula works with the body's natural pathways. It helps the arteries do what they were designed to do, expand and nourish. And that impacts how you feel, not just in the bedroom, but throughout your day. Improved blood flow means sharper thinking, warmer extremities, and, yes, stronger, more reliable erections. When Tom started adding arugula to his meals, just a handful with his eggs in the morning, a small salad for dinner, he didn't expect much. But within a week, he said something had shifted. He felt more alert. His legs didn't feel as heavy. Then, one morning, he woke up with a sensation he hadn't felt in almost 2 years. He smiled at the specialist, tears in his eyes, as he said, "Doctor, it's working, and I didn't need a blue pill." This is the quiet power of arugula. It's not flashy. It's not advertised to men over 60, but it works with the body in a way that restores dignity and strength. And it's not just about the leaf itself. It's about the message behind it. True healing doesn't have to come from pharmacy. Sometimes it grows from earth, patiently waits on your plate, and offers to give back what age and stress have taken. But arugula is just the beginning. There's another vegetable with incredible power, often underestimated because it's inconvenient to prepare. Yet, when consumed fresh, it sends a surge of blood throughout the system, boosts energy, and helps restore performance in as little as 12 hours. Let's explore it together. 2. Red beets. Only fresh or baked. When a specialist thinks of the most underrated foods for older men, red beets always come to mind. He once had a patient named Carl, 67, a retired firefighter with a gruff exterior and a gentle heart. He came in distraught, not from illness or pain, but from a slow, steady loss of something he couldn't quite name. "I still love my wife," he said, "but I don't feel the energy I used to. I don't feel like the man I once was." And honestly, I think she sees it too. Everything was considered: sleep, stress, medications, but the specialist kept coming back to one thing: circulation. Carl's feet were cold in the mornings. His stamina was plummeting. He even started avoiding intimacy due to silent shame. Most men don't realize these changes almost always start with blood flow, and when it declines, everything else follows. That's when the specialist told Carl about red beets. Fresh, baked with their earthy taste. They're not glamorous. They stain your fingers. They have a strong flavor. But inside, they contain one of the most powerful compounds for restoring blood flow in aging men, dietary nitrates. These nitrates convert into nitric oxide, a molecule that tells blood vessels to open up, relax, and let oxygen-rich blood flow freely throughout the body. This includes the legs, the heart, the brain, and yes, the penis. Beets are like a natural food-based version of what those little blue pills promise. Only this time, the body does all the work itself. Carl started baking beets in the oven a few times a week. Just olive oil, sea salt, and patience. Within days, he felt warmer. He started walking further. He said his thoughts didn't wander as easily. But the real change happened quietly, early one morning when he leaned against the counter in the office and said, "Doctor, she smiled at me last night like she used to." That meant the most to me. The specialist constantly sees stories like Carl's. Beets help restore a part of the body many men believe is lost forever. Not just function, but dignity. And it's not magic. It's blood flow. It's oxygen. It's the return of the simple things that make you feel alive. But here's the catch. They must be fresh or baked, not pickled, not canned. Once they're soaked in brine or boiled in a factory, the nitrates are gone, and what's left can do more harm than good. That's why the specialist always says true healing starts with real food, prepared with real care. If you want to feel a noticeable difference in your circulation, mental clarity, and connection, start with fresh red beets. Just give it a week. Your body will notice, and so will your partner. But beets aren't the only powerful food in the kitchen. There's another vegetable that protects something much deeper, the prostate. It's rich, red, and transforms into a potent antioxidant once it's heated. Most men eat it raw and completely miss this benefit. Let's uncover this silent warrior next. 3. Cooked tomatoes, the silent guardian of the prostate. The specialist remembers the day Richard walked into his office. He was 74, gray-haired, still dressed sharply like the salesman he once was. But there was a heaviness in his eyes that was deeper than physical discomfort. "It's not just the frequent urination," he said. "It's the constant worry, the pressure. Every time I try to be intimate with my wife, I'm either too tired, too distracted, or too embarrassed by what's not working anymore." He paused, then said something that stayed with the specialist. "I just want to be her man again, not her patient." What Richard was experiencing is what many men over 60 face. Prostate pressure, hormonal imbalances, and a steady decline in performance that erodes confidence. But most don't realize there's one humble vegetable that has been quietly protecting the prostate for decades. And if eaten correctly, it can change everything. That vegetable is the tomato. But here's the catch. It's not about eating it raw. It's about cooking it. When tomatoes are cooked, they release a powerful compound called lycopene, an antioxidant with a unique ability to target prostate tissue, reduce inflammation, and protect cells from damage. Lycopene isn't just good for heart health. It's one of the few natural nutrients clinically proven to reduce the risk of prostate enlargement and even lower the risk of prostate cancer in older men. The specialist told Richard to start slow. Add cooked tomatoes to his meals. Homemade sauces, baked tomatoes on toast, or even a simple tomato soup with olive oil and herbs. The key? Always include a healthy fat, like olive oil, which enhances lycopene absorption. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be real. Within a few weeks, he noticed his nighttime urges were less frequent. He was sleeping better. His energy gradually returned. But what surprised him most was how much his wife noticed. "You're laughing again," she told him. "You're not tied to the bathroom door." This shift, small, quiet, and consistent, was the beginning of his return to being a husband, not just a patient. That's why the specialist calls cooked tomatoes the silent guardian of the prostate. They don't make headlines. They don't provide instant results. but day after day, they support the male body in ways it needs most, reducing the inflammation and oxidative stress that subtly drain strength. And remember, it's not about perfection. You don't need to eat bowls of tomatoes. Just 2 to 3 servings of cooked tomato dishes a week can yield noticeable benefits over time. Add garlic, basil, and olive oil, and you have a healing meal your body will thank you for. But while tomatoes guard the prostate, there's another vegetable that works on a different front. It doesn't just support circulation or hormonal balance. It actually helps unlock testosterone that's trapped in the body. This is the final key to helping older men feel truly alive again. And believe it or not, it's been quietly sitting in your fridge for years. Let's talk about it next. 4. Spinach, the testosterone ally. The specialist once sat across from Leonard, a quiet 70-year-old man with a gentle demeanor. He had been married for over 40 years and loved his wife deeply, but he confessed something many men fear to voice. "I still love her," he said softly, "but I just don't feel like a man anymore. I have no drive. Not in my body, not in my mind, not in my desire. I feel faded." Leonard wasn't sick. He wasn't on too many medications, but he had all the hallmarks of low testosterone. Low energy, brain fog, reduced motivation, and an estrangement from his wife that hurt him more than he let on. And like many men his age, he thought it was just part of getting old, something to accept, something to endure. But it's not just age, it's depletion. Years of stress, processed foods, poor circulation, and mineral loss can strip the body of what it needs to properly produce and utilize testosterone. And one of the most underrated solutions to this problem is something you can find in almost every grocery store: spinach. This dark green leafy vegetable is rich in magnesium, folate, and plant-based nitrates. These nutrients work like a 3-part harmony, supporting testosterone production, blood vessel relaxation, and mental clarity. Magnesium, in particular, helps release bound testosterone in the blood, allowing the body to actually use what it already has. For older men, this alone can be the difference between fatigue and vitality, between estrangement and confidence. The specialist told Leonard to start small. Just add a handful of lightly steamed spinach to his breakfast or lunch each day. It didn't take long for him to notice changes. First, he felt a surge of alertness, becoming more engaged in conversation. Then, the changes manifested in his body. His legs felt stronger, his walks longer. But what touched him most was the moment his wife kissed him one morning and said, "You're standing taller again." That's what spinach can do. Not just because it's green, natural, or trendy, but because it nourishes the body's systems that matter most as you age. It supports blood flow and helps balance hormones. And it does so without a prescription, without side effects, and without harming the body. So, it should not be overlooked. Whether steamed, sautéed, or added to a smoothie, spinach should be made a regular part of one's diet. Over time, you'll feel the difference not just in your energy or performance, but in the quiet strength you carry throughout the day. Now that the 4 vegetables to consume for restoring circulation, hormonal balance, and confidence have been covered, there's something else the specialist wants to share. Because even with the right foods on the plate, many older individuals make a critical mistake during meals that subtly weakens blood flow and saps strength. It's not about what you eat, but how and when you eat it. Let me explain. What happens when one chooses the right vegetables after 60? Looking back at the decades the specialist has spent helping men regain their strength after 60, he's realized something important. Transformation doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't come in a bottle. It comes from the daily choices you make, especially what you put on your plate. The specialist has seen men, like Robert, eliminate soy from their diet and feel a surge of energy. Men like Harold switch from canned to fresh beets and feel warmth in their extremities again. The specialist has seen Frank say goodbye to eggplant and finally feel sensation return where there was once only numbness. And he's seen Walter steam his broccoli more carefully and finally sleep through the night without rushing to the bathroom. These aren't miracles. These are changes. Quiet, steady, deeply human changes that begin with learning better and choosing better. Then there are the men who embrace the right vegetables. Men like Tom, who found strength again in a handful of arugula. Carl, who returned to energy by baking fresh red beets. Richard, who protected his prostate with cooked tomatoes and found his rhythm again. And Leonard, who gained confidence, posture, voice, pride, all from a humble food like spinach. Each of these stories reminds the specialist that aging doesn't mean fading. It means adapting, learning, choosing a different path. The body is still listening, even after 60, 70, or 80. And when you start feeding it what it truly needs, it responds. Perhaps not instantly, perhaps not overnight, but slowly, steadily, and always with dignity. If there's one thing the specialist wants you to take away from this, it's this. Not all vegetables are good for every man, and not every healthy food belongs on your plate. What you avoid is just as important as what you choose. The 4 vegetables discussed today, soy, pickled or canned beets, nightshades like eggplant, and overcooked cruciferous vegetables, can drain your circulation, hormonal balance, and the very strength that defines your masculinity. But the right 4, arugula, fresh red beets, cooked tomatoes, and spinach, can restore that strength from within. You have more control over your health, energy, and confidence than you've been told. Your future doesn't have to be weaker than your past. And no matter your age, it's never too late to choose vitality, one forkful at a time. The specialist says this not just as a doctor, but as someone who has walked this path with thousands of men, many of whom believed they were too far gone, too broken, or too old to change. And they were wrong. Just as the specialist hopes, you now know, you're not too old. You are just one right choice away from a better tomorrow. The knowledge presented here can have a profound impact on one's health, perhaps more than any traditional prescription. The path to better health often benefits from shared experiences and mutual support. It's about building a community of strong, informed, and capable individuals who are making positive choices step by step. Remember, your health truly matters. Moving forward, we will explore how to integrate these foods into simple and delicious meals that promote improved circulation, hormonal health, and overall well-being. Practical recommendations will be provided that have already helped many experience significant changes in their bodies and lives. Your next phase begins now. If this information has been helpful to you or your loved ones, please consider sharing it. Your story, questions, or even just words of gratitude can encourage other men to take the first step toward better health. Feedback helps to develop and improve such materials. If you know someone over 60 who is struggling with a lack of energy, intimate issues, or self-doubt, share this knowledge with them. It can bring far more benefit than any medical prescription. Supporting the mission to provide truly life-changing health advice for older adults worldwide is crucial. Every contribution helps ensure that honest and helpful information is accessible to those who need it most. Your health matters, your voice matters, and your support is invaluable. Let's continue to build this community of strong, informed, and confident men, making one right choice after another.